informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern sense is common sense.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Well, we're back. Some interesting things occurred in the interim. Number one is I lost the internet. Not quite sure how much of the show I lost. With luck, you missed the promos. And let me ask the people in chat. Did you guys hear the bulk of the interview with Alex EPSTEIN? And if you did, let me know in the chat room, because that was 40 minutes of basically nothing but facts, counterintuitive as they may be, and so unusual to hear somebody say things that intuitively we know are right, but counterintuitive in terms of this is a guy that's going out and making this case, making the argument for that, and making it well, making it cogently. Now, can you not see the philosopher in him? Once I knew that, I can, and that's where he gets the background to make his arguments. If you'd gone up against this guy in high school debate, for example, or, I don't know, maybe if he continued being on some kind of a debating team in college, I'll wager he probably cut you off at the knees, early and often. That's just my guess. Now, folks, let's see. Okay, Simone in chat says, okay, we're live again. Just to confirm, is anybody watching on YouTube and or Facebook that happens to be in SHR Media chat? Can you tell me that's rolling? I'm curious if the live streaming is still going. Apparently, I've still got Spreaker going, audio only. Just let me know if you can still see the show or whether, son of a gun, I need to boot that bad boy up again, too. So, if you want to talk about the debate, it's 575-208-4481. I saw some of it. I can't say as I say I saw all of it. I saw the first probably 40 minutes of it or so. Then I had to drive to the studio. Then I had to set things up in the studio. And then I saw basically the end of it. But before I do that, this is sort of a constant on the show. I want to make sure that we do this, too.
The Bloviating Zeppelins HeyJackass.com Chicago Death Toll Update. Courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
And you can go to HeyJackass.com at just exactly that, illustrating Chicago values. Now, September to date, shot and killed 71, shot and wounded 318, total shot 389, total homicides 80. Week in progress, September 27th to October 3rd, shot and killed 8, shot and wounded 29, total shot 37, total homicides 9. Now, this is year to date. Shot and killed 547, shot and wounded 2,652, total shot 3,199, total homicides 600. Now, the 2020 Chicago shot clock is back up and working. And so in Chicago, a person is shot every 2 minutes and 3 seconds, and a person is murdered every 10 minutes and 56 seconds. That's something that Chicago definitely has to be proud of, I'd say, as well as wailing people. I think there are a lot of wailing people. Excuse me. I said there were wailing people. Let's make sure that there are wailing people.
To people that are pro-life, I fucking hate you. Why can't women have abortions? I just saw a fucking pro-life sign driving down the fucking road having a mental breakdown. And I was trying to say, all you people are you're so fucking stupid. This sign says,
Why can't women have abortions? I guess she thinks that since Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, magically, that's not happening.
What? I could feel pain before I was born. It's a baby. Bitch, I was born and I can feel pain. I wish I wasn't fucking born. Stop bringing these fucking kids into horrible fucking homes just because you're pro-birth. You're fucking stupid. And I wish I had been fucking aborted.
I wish I had been aborted.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. Nutcase. Nutcase for 500, Bill. I'll take nutcase for 500. So I'm curious what you guys think about the debate. We'll get to that in just a moment. I have, that I can find so far, I have one audio cut. I have some overall thoughts, and I'd be curious. Yeah, Cheetah in chat says, the histrionics never stop with that crowd. Here's a new Trump ad that I thought, okay, this is timely.
It's not a solution. It is a virtual surrender. Biden's plan for the China virus is to shut down the entire U.S. economy.
I would shut it down. No miracle is coming.
If I were president today, I would roll back the reopenings in a number of places.
Biden wants to surrender our country to the virus. He wants to surrender our families to the violent left-wing mob. And he wants to surrender our jobs to China.
I would shut it down.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Biden's plan.
And I think he would. Biden means what he says. Now, this is back in, I think, 2016. I think Biden meant what he said here as well.
You may hear about me. I have incredibly good judgment. One, I married Jill. And two, I appointed Johnson to the academy. I just want you to know that. Just clap for that, you stupid bastards.
As he happens to be addressing the military, that probably won't go very far. Oh, and by the way, even though it's immured in video during the debate, I did see that Biden said, no, I didn't say that. Nothing like that ever happened. Zip, zero, the null set. Now, we've discovered in the intervening literally years now that there was a soft coup attempted against a presidential nominee, a president-elect, and a sitting president. I'm going to go into a story that I talked about briefly, and there'll be some detail here. And at the conclusion of this story, I have a question for everybody, and I think this will take me over into the second hour, because I've got about 3 more minutes before the top of the hour. And I then want to ask a question after this. There's a little schadenfreude that occurred. Just as the Democrats have been screaming, Russia, Russia, Russia to Trump. Maybe in return, everybody ought to be screaming China, China, China to the Democrats. Because really, when you think about it, who needs Russian hacking when you have Chinese inserts and you have stupid Democrats? This is back from Fox News. Does anybody remember this? This involves Dianne Feinstein. And seeing her walking around a private airport when she excoriates all of the United States for wearing masks and she's caught not wearing a mask. I saw immediately a nice dovetailing for tonight to talk about. Then there was this article. Feinstein was mortified by an FBI allegation that a staffer was a spy for China. U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein fired a staffer a few years back who was allegedly part of an effort to spy and pass on political intelligence to the Chinese government. Now, I bet you didn't hear much about that. The staffer, based in the Democrats' San Francisco office, was suspected of delivering political intelligence, though nothing, they say, top secret, to officials based in the local Chinese consulate there in San Francisco. Now, that's what Politico said. So here's what happened. The FBI informs Feinstein, the then chairwoman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, well, that's no reason to tap her, is it? About 5 years ago, after the staffer and the allegations that the staffer was a spy. The source who confirmed the incident to the San Francisco Chronicle said Dianne was mortified about learning of it. Of course, here, then you find out a little bit more. Of course, nothing classified, I'm sure, was ever overheard by this guy from the front seat, because he was her driver. And I'm absolutely certain that Democrat Dianne Feinstein held top intelligence information in equally high regard as her good friend and cohort, Hillary Rodham Clinton. So we have to ask ourselves a fundamental question. Could it be remotely possible that the Chinese determined to insert an agent directly into Feinstein's vehicle because she was the chair of the Senate Committee of Intelligence, a committee, by the way, upon which she still sits today? The suspected spy served as the lawmaker's driver in California, but took on other roles as well, including helping out in her San Francisco office and being Dianne Feinstein's liaison to the Asian American community in the state. He attended Chinese consulate events on behalf of the senator. And this is worth a final paragraph chortle. A former official said the spy's handler probably got an award back in China for his efforts to penetrate Feinstein's office and pass on all that great, wonderful intelligence. Nice job. There'll be more when we come back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunnett. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunnett.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is featured on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night for 2 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. Whilst manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ continues to radically change the world of leftists, one diaper at a time. Stop balancing your checkbooks. Stop cleaning your fish tanks. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is your magnet for truth, justice, obesity, a darkened studio, and late-night freedom. No United States of America freedoms were abridged in the making of this ad.
This is Shannon Wright.
And this is Michael Wright.
Reminding you to listen
to The Right Way with Shannon and Mike.
Every Monday through Thursday.
7 to 9 a.m.
Right here on shrmedia.com.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the unpleasant blind guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the unpleasant blind guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian Sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. I could say something silly, stupid, and fattening, like, hey, share what's going on here tonight. But since I lost the internet in the studio, and YouTube is shut down, and Facebook is shut down, and Spreaker is apparently all that's up, I guess you could share Spreaker, but over 50% of the show is gone, so why bother? In any event, I hope, I can't tell on this end, because I'm not monitoring Spreaker all the time, but I could tell when the chat room went down, and I got the BCOD, which is the Blue Circle of Death, and then it said, by the way, dude, you have no internet. Thanks, Comcast. Then I just, the show must go on, and I don't have the time to restart everything. So we're running on Spreaker right now. If you happen to be on Spreaker, at least you'll understand. Or if you happen to be on the chat room right now, you'll hear that, well, all the streaming went down, and it's not coming back, not for tonight. So if you want to listen to the show, you can go to shrmedia.com. You can hit Spreaker up there and listen to the show. YouTube isn't running and Facebook isn't running. The video streaming isn't running, so that's the name of that tune. Simone says in chat, technology sucks sometimes. Yeah, it does. And I was talking about Feinstein having a Chinese spy in her office. As one response, the Democrats said that at no time has any Feinstein staffer in California ever had a security clearance, because, why would they ever need one? They can get all they can hear, copy, or steal from the one-time chair of the entire Senate Committee on Intelligence herself. But wait, there's more. KPIX in San Francisco was indicating at the time that the Chinese spy was insinuated into Feinstein's office for, only 10 years. 10 years. Oh, no. No. There was an update to that. It wasn't 10 years. It was 20 years. This guy was a Chinese spy in her office. And, of course, she never spoke out of turn to her driver. And I'm sure he was taking her laundry and becoming a good friend to Dianne Feinstein because he only had 20 years to do it. There was an observation then from that. Former FBI agent and KPIX security analyst, a guy named Jeff Harp, said he wasn't surprised. He said, think about Dianne Feinstein back then and what she had access to. One, she had access to the Chinese community here in San Francisco. Great amount of political influence. And two, correct me if I'm wrong, Dianne Feinstein still has very close ties to the Intelligence Committee there in Washington, D.C. However, after all we know about the FBI and its former and current directors, can we assume really that we're getting the full story on this? Of course not. I'm surprised even that this information escaped. Then the Gateway Pundit came out with an article not long after this. And I'm sure you didn't hear about this, because why would you? Dianne Feinstein was warned about a Chinese bribe and infiltration in the 1990s when she hired her Chinese driver spy. The San Francisco Chronicle claims none of her staff ever knew what was going on and just kept the story quiet. Feinstein reportedly found out that her staffer was a Chinese spy in 2013, while, of course, she was the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. That's right, the chairman. So another strange coincidence. These are, again, a continuing series of reasons why I am disabused of believing in coinkydink anymore. Feinstein's third husband, by the way, whom she married in 1980, is named Richard Blum, B-L-U-M, and he is very deeply and very personally connected to China as a dun-dun-dun. Oh, wait. If only I had a producer. Richard Blum has China as a... Oh, yeah, prominent investor. Well, you didn't hear that because I don't have a producer. Now, isn't that a weird bit of connective tissue on all of that? Since 1995, Feinstein made 3 visits to confer with senior government officials there in Beijing. Blum, Richard Blum, her husband, has accompanied her each time at his own expense and has attended many of her meetings with President Jiang Zemin and other top Chinese leaders. That's kind of an unusual degree of access for a private businessman. But he had it, so he took it. On their trip to China in January of last year, Blum accompanied Feinstein to dinner with Zhang in the exclusive Leaders Enclave. And the Chinese spy mysteriously appeared on the scene in 1993. Oddly enough, that was only 1 year after Dianne Feinstein was elected to the Senate in 1992. And that's all coinkydink. So what happened is she's emerged as one of the staunchest proponents of U.S. relations with China, fighting for permanent most favored nation trading status for Beijing. Now, at the same time, kind of far, far away from the spotlight, her husband, Richard Blum, he expanded his private business interests in China to the point that his firm is now a prominent investor inside communist China. So for a whole bunch of years, Feinstein and Blum insisted that they maintained a solid firewall between her role as an influential foreign policy player and his career as a private investor overseas. His investments in China, though, and again, come on, man. This is just a quinky-dink. All of his Chinese investments just kind of went boom. They ballooned after his wife, Diane, a Democrat, was elected in 1992. She hired this dude in 1993. And then after that, she saw her husband's businesses flourish. That's kind of weird. So, no wonder that Fusion GPS witch hunt against Republicans is being funded and directed by Feinstein's top former Senate Intelligence Committee staffer. And it's kind of funny how that works out, too. So, let me break this down for even the most addled of leftists amongst us who happen to be listening, with a few questions. Okay, taxpayer money paid this Chinese mole, this Chinese spy. Your taxpayer money, my taxpayer money. The first question, did he get a pension? How would we know? Wouldn't it behoove the Democrats to keep such a cock-up kind of really quiet? Well, yeah, of course it would. What a great job. What a, I can't remember the Russian comedian. What a country. What a great job. Steal secrets, spy on the Guaylo, and then take a cushy retirement. And so let's break this down as well. The suspected spy served as the lawmaker's driver in California. He took on other roles as well. He was helping out in their San Francisco office. He was liaison. He attended all sorts of consulate events. He was a lot more than just a driver. After her husband's close associations with China, and she acquired a comfort factor in being around him, would it not be logical that the amount of time spent with her day in and day out, week after week, year after year, would result in her guard letting down? Not just 10 years, 20 years. And like I say, remember, this dude, though it was stated he didn't have a security clearance, he was her driver and her office manager as well. Okay, since we don't know exactly the date that the spy was discovered, we can't be sure exactly who was in charge. But either one of these guys was in charge of the FBI when an actual Chinese spy was uncovered in 2013. Now, Jimmy the Leak Comey was appointed in September of 2013. Why wasn't the spy arrested? Who is this guy? Why was it covered up by the media and the FBI and the DOJ? Where is this spy now? Why weren't Feinstein and her husband's enormous Chinese investments investigated? And who else was in on it? So, go ahead, convince me that opportunities were never given and taken. They all were, as we all know. So, okay, take your pick, Russia or China. Both are threats to the U.S. But I'm going to submit, knowing everything that we do now these days, the most credible and immediately existential threat to the United States is going to be China. There's no proven collusion between Trump and Russia. None. But there is certainly credible linkage between Feinstein and China. Like I said, those articles even came out Politico. Politico is not a right-leaning organ, folks. So this is my question. This is my final thought on the matter, because we're going to move into another area that is linked to this. What happened is the FBI decided to do Senator Feinstein a solid by notifying her and her staff of the potential threat from within due to this Chinese spy. They told her something similar to, we think you got a Chinese spy problem. That's exactly what the FBI did not do for the Donald Trump campaign. They could have taken the staff and then candidate nominee Donald Trump aside and said something similar to, okay, we just thought you ought to know. We think you got something of a Russian problem, as with Feinstein. But they decided not to do with it. They decided not to do that. So in the interim, we know a lot more. This is a story that just was released by The Federalist. Explosive new FBI notes confirm Obama directed the anti-Flynn operation. Newly released notes confirm President Barack Obama's key role in surveillance and leak operation against Michael Flynn, the incoming Trump administration national security advisor. The story goes on. If you listen to Biden, he lied about all of this. And then I say something similar too. But wait, there's more. On September 25th, also by National Review, this came out. FBI agent on the Flynn case believed prosecution was used by the Mueller team to get Trump. That's a quote. An FBI agent who participated in the investigation of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn told the Justice Department the initial prosecution of Flynn seemed to be based on a desire to get Trump, according to a document filed by the DOJ. So the Justice Department filed, as part of the ongoing Flynn case, the FBI 302. 302 is an interview summary, basically. On a September 17th interview of Agent William Barnett, so they're naming names now, conducted by Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Missouri, guy by the name of Jeffrey Jensen. Attorney General William Barr asked Jensen to go over the case against Flynn, and Jensen has since joined U.S. Attorney John Durham in a probe of the origins of the Russia investigation. But wait, there's more. This is from, This is Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, speaking on the telephone.
Exactly was President Obama and the Obama administration doing to put such pressure on FBI agents and analysts that they said they were glad to close the Flynn case on the day Trump was elected, but then there was pressure to keep it open, that they felt that they had to personally buy insurance because they thought they were going to be sued because of the misconduct going on at the FBI. What was President Obama and the Obama administration doing here?
Well, obviously they were exerting significant pressure on Comey and McCabe to keep the investigation going, apparently, particularly through Comey's meeting with Biden and Obama and Susan Rice and Sally Yates.
Okay, stop just for a second. Let's go back to Obama. And when you go back to Obama, that also necessitates that you go to Joe Biden. Because if you recall, it was Joe Biden who said, hey, he suggested in a meeting, and this is documented, and again, Biden lied about it tonight during the debate. It was Biden's suggestion that they use the Logan Act against General Flynn.
January 5th, and apparently for a few days before, either by phone or some kind of other meeting that I think is reflected in Strzok's notes that were given to us a few weeks ago, indicating that Obama said he wanted the right people put on it and the investigation to continue, and Biden mentioned the Logan Act.
Top-down effort just to get, President Trump and Michael.
Biden mentioned the Logan Act. Now, stop here just for a second. Remember what I said about Quinky Dink? There is no such damn thing anymore. Do you think it's humanly possible that in his administration for 8 years that Obama was stupid? Do you possibly think that Obama didn't have his finger on every aspect of these operations? As a matter of fact, somebody in the FBI said we need to make sure that we keep Obama in the loop, but that is buried. That information keeps getting buried. Because evidently no one is interested in making a direct link, now this was a verbal statement, between what was going on in all of the actions against Flynn and everything that was occurring in the Mueller investigation. Mueller investigation. Mueller. So does anybody think Obama was stupid? He had his finger on the pulse of everything that was going on. Because if there's one thing that you and I both know is Barack Hussein Obama isn't stupid.
When you look at it in toto, everything. We've been covering it since 2017. FBI agents talking about, behind the scenes, people here are scrambling for information to support their theories. It's a madhouse. Things like Andrew McCabe was thought to be the, quote, worst offender of rabbit hole thinking and conspiracy theories about this. So, when you put it all together, it just feels like a real push to bring down and block President Trump and be elected on the part of the Obama administration. I think that's what people want to know. How much was President Obama's fingerprints on this?
Thank you.
His fingerprints are all over it. There's the reference in the new text message.
And remember, this is Sidney Powell talking on the telephone. She's the attorney for Michael Flynn.
It's about how his briefing went on January 5th. So it was a full-fledged briefing. And, of course, we have a Susan Rice's memo on it and James Comey's memo on it. There's a lot of information about that, and now we know that there are other people who need to be asked about it as well. And Mr. Barnett, the FBI agent who 302 is included in the government's filing last night, says it was a top-down operation.
It was a top-down operation. Obviously, Barack Hussein Obama knew about it all. So, at this point, should it be any kind of a surprise to learn that FBI agents knew about the anti-Trump coup? And they stayed silent. Let's go back. Let's review a little history. In May of 2017, although I fervently believe he should have done it on January 21st, the day after his inauguration, Trump fired Jimmy the Leak Comey. Comey all along has falsely presented himself as this 6'8" looming martyr, as kind of the most virtuous man in Washington. But even then, before we knew that Comey had participated in this coup, I called it a soft coup since late 2016, early 2017. I called it that. Against a presidential nominee, a president-elect, and a sitting president, it was really, really, really clear that Comey wasn't a straight shooter. And I knew that when Jimmy the Leak Comey said in front of God and the country that Hillary Clinton's emails were not prosecutable. And it's because she didn't have the intent to mislead. Because I worked for the FBI, I immediately recognized that under various USC, United States codes, that's a lie. The USC codes that were applicable do not require specific intent. There are two kinds of intent in a code as written. There are crimes of general intent, and there are crimes of specific intent. And here we go, Jimmy. how you determine if a crime involves specific intent, and you said it didn't. She couldn't generate the specific intent. Those crimes say with the intent to. But none of those crimes were crimes of specific intent. And when you led the country astray from that day on, I knew you were a liar. You didn't prevaricate. You didn't, well, I kind of hinted around. No. Jimmy the Leak Comey, you lied. Now, some of the people at the time were saying that while the FBI, the whole paradigm of the FBI, was rotten at the top, at the 7th floor, that's where all the bigwigs sit. The rank and file, some of whom I still speak to, all the Indians, all the chiefs, rather, are on the 7th floor. The Indians are all about the building. But, of course, obviously, the rest of the FBI, the Indians, they believed in truth, justice, in the American way. They knew what was happening inside that building. I know they knew. And if you want to talk about the blue wall as the FBI being the premier law enforcement agency of the United States, I said back then, you know what all this would take? Is one good FBI agent to come out willing, because this would happen essentially, willing to lose his or her career. Because that would happen. You'd be branded on the interior as a whistleblower, and then the entire 7th floor would focus on your ass to make sure that you were fired, but then you get the truth out. Now, some of the agents were thinking about going public because they had their disagreements with Jimmy the Leak Comey. Anonymous FBI agents came out and said that they were really disappointed with Comey's handling of it. So this is consistent. This is an industrial failure, a generational failure by the FBI. If I had come before a court, any court, not just a FISA court, and presented what turned out to be knowingly false information to a court, and I predicated a warrant upon that, and my affidavit contained false information, when the court discovered, as the FISA courts have discovered now, when that court discovered that I lied to them, I would be fired. Quite frankly, especially in these tempestuous times, I would be prosecuted criminally. And yet nothing has happened to these FBI agents. Fuck it. Nothing has happened to anybody.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It is he that is me, bringing perspective from across the sea. Join me, Jack Alexander, 4 days a week for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the news and issues affecting life and liberty here in the USA. I'll show you what the mainstream media refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel, nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere good podcasts can be found. Also, check out the website, www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
We are back. It's the final 25 minutes of the show. Thanks for being here, as stilted and jilted as it was. I'd ask you to share the show, but it's way too damn late to do that. Thanks to the internet that died. All my streaming has died, YouTube died, and Facebook died. Spreaker is still doing fine, though. So that's good. If there's one thing that you can say is consistent about broadcasting this show, is that Spreaker has treated me very, very well. And I completely have to, my hat is off to Spreaker. Nobody else, but my hat is off to Spreaker. If you're on Spreaker, you can go ahead and share the show. And I've got a few highlights here. Now, I could not share the show. I couldn't. We got in trouble one time with YouTube by doing that. And one of the other hosts got us kicked off YouTube for a while for simulcasting one of the shows. It might have even been another presidential debate. And it would have been great to listen to live here, but you can't do that anymore. By the way, as I indicated, if any of you want to call in and weigh in on the presidential debates, I'm going to do a couple more cuts, and I think after that my show will essentially be concluded for tonight. Now, here is, and again, this is perfectly illustrative of, well, here's NBC News. First presidential debate, live updates and fact checks, okay? So the fact check. Did Trump call veterans losers? Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers. So they said, yeah. Trump continues without evidence to cast doubt on the 2020 election. Really? No evidence of voter fraud? I guess you haven't heard my show that's coming about the massive amounts of voter fraud. Trump tries to tie Biden to the Green New Deal, which he does not support. Yes, he does. Biden says violent crime fell under Obama and that it rose under Trump. I guess no one has eyes anymore. Trump attacks Biden's family again. Do you think the Democrats, if the role were reversed and, say, Donald Trump Jr. were involved in things like that the media would leave him alone? And that Trump is again relying on white supremacist votes. You can't make this stuff up. I did an entire show on Charlottesville. I may have to go back and revisit that just to prove all that is just junk. Now, this is what, let's see, who is this? NBC declares as the top moments from the first presidential debate.
How you doing, man? I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
Mr. President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
You pick
You'd be surprised.
the wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, did you use the word smart? You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use
Actually, that's a fact.
that word.
Vote now.
You're going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question
you want to put
is
a lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list?
You folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
This is the same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
That was said sarcastically,
That was
you
him.
know that.
I
was
40.
said-
Okay, the funny thing is that pharmacologically, I happen to know that methamphetamine is good against dementia. One of the reasons that, of course, he wouldn't take a drug test. I believe that Biden was provided with certain pharmaceuticals because, and wouldn't everybody listening to me now agree that that's the most animated you have ever seen Joe Biden in the last year at least? To which I would say, tomorrow for Joe is going to be a bitch. It's going to be an absolute bitch for the poor boy. The other thing, right off the bat, I remembered that Donald Trump looked over to Chris Wallace and he says, apparently I'm debating you, not him, meaning Biden. That was very interesting. And also in chat, oh gosh, let's see. There's a guy named Dr. Milton Wolf, where he writes, Biden called the president childish names and told him to shut up. Couldn't answer if he'd pack SCOTUS. Said he is, in fact, for more lockdowns and masks. Says he's against GND, even though his website says he's for it. That's the Green New Deal. As I indicated, this was Biden's running the ragged edge. Because tonight, on at least two occasions, with law enforcement and with the Green New Deal, he is potentially pissing off the socialists and all the Bernie bros. And as I indicated from the comment that Donald Trump made, am I debating you or am I debating him? Well, the deal was with Chris Wallace, Trump was debating two people tonight. He was debating Biden, and he was also debating good old Chris Wallace. But that's Fox News's and the American media maggots' excuse to say, look, we made Fox News, an anchor from Fox News, the moderator on the very first presidential debate. That's how egalitarian we are. Because we're all about equality. See, we put Fox News up first. And then, of course, he couldn't explain Hunter Biden's Russian and Ukrainian dollars. Let's go for some more here.
1,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. He knew all the way back in February how serious.
This makes me wonder also. I'm going to ask, I'll throw it out there. Does anyone think that you won't see Joe Biden for maybe a day or two? My guess would be he's going to need that amount of time to recover. Because when you're dealing with what I believe to be that kind of pharmaceutical, you do need some time to decompress. How otherwise could you have gotten Joe Biden to be as apparently awake as he was tonight?
Serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give...
Okay, I listened to this, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my massive archive of stuff, and in a chronological order, I'm going to display. It'll be, if I can get it done by Thursday night, I'll do it Thursday night. If I can't, I'll do it on Monday night. And I will display for you, everyone here on the show, illustration by illustration by illustration of what Trump did at the same time that the Democrats were doing nothing. Because that's not just a lie. That's a damned lie. Trump let him get away with it. Here's one thing that we know. And I didn't watch all the after show analysis. Trump did what Trump does. He went on the attack. He got Biden off balance a little bit. Chris Wallace, because he's Chris Wallace, wasn't going to be fair in terms of dealing with Trump. Trump knew that. On the other hand, Trump didn't let Biden lie. The point here, I think this was the measure of the two individuals as presidential contenders, Trump could have come off looking like a little bit of a dick. I think he missed a lot of opportunities to score factual points. And I understand, dickish is us. He's a New York guy. I grok that concept, okay? But I think he missed some golden opportunities to slam some facts right up Biden's aircraft signaling system. And he didn't do it. He didn't take advantage of it.
People were warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. And even the people who testified under oath.
Well, this is interesting in chat. White Mamba, the entertainer formerly known as White Mamba, said, I agree. It's well known that Hitler was on methamphetamines for most of his Third Reich days. That's true.
So let me ask you this.
No, go ahead, mister. I'm listening to you. Wait a minute. You get the final word, mister.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me. This.
Hey, let me just say to you.
But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that...
Sure, he says.
...that they need to stand down and not add to...
Simone in chat says, he may be a dick, but he's my dick.
...the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland.
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing to do
specifically...
That,
do it.
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what do you...
Bingo. I think that's about enough of that I can take for the night. There are a lot of other things that I could go into right about now. What do I have? I got about 10 minutes left. Let me see if I can get this in. Because I have a lot of information. The grand jury came back in the Breonna Taylor case, and that was last week. You're not hearing a fraction of what actually occurred with the Breonna Taylor case in the grand jury. One indictment was handed down to an officer, a detective, for reckless endangerment because he fired rounds in the apartment that didn't hit the suspect, but apparently went through an apartment wall. And the grand jury knew full well that they're not going to get out of there, maybe even alive, without doing something, and somebody's got to burn. Somebody's got to fry. They handed down no true bills on any of the officers involved for the shooting, just the one officer whose rounds went in apparently to another apartment. But here's what actually occurred. This is Charlie Kirk being as crystal clear as I can possibly think on the Breonna Taylor shooting. Oh, wait. Maybe it would help if I turned on the sound. All right, let me go back here. One more time.
Hey, everybody. I have no patience for the lies that are being told about this Breonna Taylor incident in Louisville. There now are anarchists, BLM Incorporated, and Democrats that are marching in the streets trying to advocate for justice for Breonna Taylor. Senator Harris, who will never become...
Oh, yeah. Isn't this funny? Now, the source of this video says that the video is unavailable. I had something in mind, and I had a second source set up. And let me see if I can pull up this second source. This is about the fourth or fifth time that I've had to do this for videos, and you know why. And go.
About this Breonna Taylor incident in Louisville. There now are anarchists, BLM Incorporated, and Democrats that are marching in the streets trying to advocate for justice for Breonna Taylor. Senator Harris, who will never become Vice President of the United States, says her family deserves justice. Well, let's actually go over the facts of the case. So, as background, there is an individual that was by the name of Jamarcus Glover. This was Breonna Taylor's ex-boyfriend. She was knee-deep in crime with Jamarcus Glover. In fact, he used Breonna Taylor's address for deliveries. He was arrested in a no-knock warrant. Breonna Taylor was in business with her ex-boyfriend.
Okay, it was a no-knock warrant. That's how the judge signed it, but this wasn't told from the very beginning. They knocked.
Jamarcus Glover. So there was another warrant that was issued, a no-knock warrant to go arrest Breonna Taylor, had her name on it. So they go to her residence and they knock. They knocked even though it was a no-knock raid. So they go into her home because there was no answer after they knocked, and the police were shot at by her new boyfriend, criminal, thug, Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker started to shoot at the police and shot Sergeant Mattingly in the leg. Unfortunately and tragically, Breonna Taylor got caught in the crossfire. She was not in her bed, however. She was standing in the hallway.
Just like hands up, don't shoot was a lie, that she got shot in bed was a lie.
And so after this, the police return fire back and forth, and Breonna Taylor passes away. That's not an outcome that I think anyone would defend. However, this was not as if they walked into a random apartment or the police strolled up to a random person on the side of the street, execution style, and decided to kill this individual. Breonna Taylor was dating a criminal, Kenneth Walker, who decided to shoot at the police. And so the grand jury poured over this information. People are outraged. They say they're only tried with reckless endangerment. That's probably a correct indictment for one of the police officers for endangering some of the other individuals in apartments that were adjacent. However,
I'm not convinced.
Do you think for a second if there was evidence for this grand jury to proceed with a murder indictment that they wouldn't have done that? You see, this grand jury was under such public pressure to go and proceed with that sort of indictment for murder, and they didn't because the facts did not warrant it. So before you continue to wear Breonna Taylor's name on your helmet, or you have a shirt that says Breonna Taylor, know the facts of the case. That she was involved in a drug trafficking criminal scheme, that she was dating a attempted cop killer, Kenneth Walker, and her ex-boyfriend was Jamarcus Glover. Not exactly involved with the best people in society. This is the same as Jacob Blake. People say, oh, we must remember Jacob Blake. Really? Jacob Blake was accused of being a rapist.
Yep.
I thought we're supposed to believe all women.
Right.
So before we start to create these nationwide emotive, quasi-pathological campaigns around unjust police killings, Breonna Taylor would still be alive if her boyfriend and her lover, Kenneth Walker, didn't try to kill a police officer. Now, I'm not defending the fact that Breonna Taylor passed away in the crossfire, but this idea that the police officers went out of their way to go murder Breonna Taylor while she was in her bed, when she was in the hallway, is nonsense.
Thank you.
And the police knocked, even though they had a no-knock warrant. Know the facts. Don't get angry just because the media tells you. And stand with our police officers. The police officers acted correctly in this situation.
But wait, there's more. I have since discovered more. As I said, Breonna Taylor wasn't shot while she was sleeping in her bed. She was awake in the hallway. She was not an EMT at the time of her death. She was forced to quit years ago. Why? In 2017, because a dead body was found in a car rented under her name, and the victim was an associate of her drug-dealing boyfriend. And, of course, we know, even though it was a no-knock warrant, and you still apply for those, the officers did knock. Her neighbors testified under oath the police did, in fact, announce themselves before they tried to enter her apartment. So her boyfriend shot a cop, because he had warning. He had time to find his firearm. Perhaps even loaded if it was unloaded. He fired a round before the cops returned fire. She was still aiding and abetting her previous boyfriend's drug-dealing operation. She and her car, you didn't hear about this, were surveilled delivering drugs to his trap house on numerous occasions. She was still stashing his drug money at her house. Her address was on record as being his current address on bank records. Her ex-boyfriend blamed her at the time, boyfriend, for her death, not the police. It wasn't the DA who determined the police officers should not be indicted. It was a grand jury, theoretically the most impartial of all arbiters. Her address, Breonna Taylor's address, and vehicle were on the warrant. The left, Democrats, and the American media maggots have been lying to you. It gets down to this: commit less crime, get less shot. And for those of you who may have just tuned in, this is a critical component of life. Commit less crime, get less shot.
Monsieur has been locked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct, right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me. I'm very active on Twitter at BZEP, BZEP. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, and also by the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And by Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust, you can trust. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. Sorry about the internet. Thank you, Comcast, once again. Thanks to everybody for listening live. Thanks to Alex EPSTEIN for being here in the first hour. He had to go. Thanks to everybody for being in chat. Thanks for listening later on in podcast. I'll be back Thursday night. I'm negotiating for a radio host named Rachi Stucci. Waiting to see what's going to happen. Otherwise, I'm not sure what's happening on Thursday night. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.